In some sense, science and religion is not new. So Aristotle, 23 centuries ago, invented biology, invented a lot of our logic, and talked about God. So he was actually doing science, and he was also talking about the philosophy of God. Within Oxford, science and religion is more like a kind of umbrella, because to some extent science and religion are not well-defined terms. They are terms that are somewhat vague. But within this context of science and religion, we can discuss, there are particular fields that are very interesting, mainly philosophy and mainly history. And I think that the field is growing in Oxford because it's intrinsically interesting, but also because it is interesting also for the public. So many questions that academics are asked by the public are about science and religion. So it's important that in academia we have we know something about these fields and are able to help people to do good work or to understand clearly. So I think in Oxford the field is growing. Here in Brazil, it's an interesting, I've been doing a study for a couple of years into science and religion in Latin America generally. Of course, Brazil's situation is a little bit different from much of Latin America. I think there are many opportunities here which are different to the United States. You mentioned the issue of evolution. Evolution has been less of a problem in Latin America, or less perceived as a problem than in traditionally Protestant North America, for example. So there is that issue. And also you have a mix of Anglo-Saxon and continental philosophy here. There are the influences of French Illuminism. And this also means that many people who are well educated in Brazil will have a mixture of philosophical influences which are perhaps a little bit less common in parts of the United States or in Europe, because of this blending of different worlds. So I think it's intrinsically interesting. And of course, generally, Brazil is itself very interesting today. 16 years ago, I was working here as a business executive, as a consultant with part of Banco Itaú. And Brazil is completely transformed in the last 16 years in terms of what's happening in the universities, in the economy, and so on. So there's just going to be a lot of opportunities for the future. The challenge, of course, is building bridges. So, and one reason for me being now visiting Brazil over the last week or so is I want to help to build those bridges. So we have good contacts between scholars in European universities, United States, and in Brazil, because we still have this little bit of isolation of the Anglo-Saxon world from the Latin American world, and Europe from Latin America, and between the disciplines. So whatever we can do to help to break down some of those barriers, that would be a good thing. And I particularly praise the work being done in Juiz de Fora, because it's interesting how many collaborations are developing between this university and universities in North America and in Europe. So 16 years ago, when I was at CERN, we only had a very few Brazilians working at CERN. But now it's very interesting for me to learn that you have a physics group here at Juiz de Fora who also have physicists working at CERN in Geneva. So obviously the extent of international collaboration is growing. And I think this university, Juiz de Fora, is a pioneer in that. And I think that's a wonderful thing.